My journey with Mary Baba began in the very early days when Mary Baba, right after Baba dropped his physical form. I'm going to give you a little background to this whole story so that you can understand my traveling, my companions, the hundreds of people that I met throughout my travels throughout all of India, 250 Baba centers, around that many, and old houses, dilapidated houses and palaces that I stayed at. It all began right after Baba dropped his physical form. I was living in Hollywood, California, and I went to get me a part-time job at Gordon Opticals because I wanted to take night classes at the Los Angeles City College. And I met a man named Ralph Brown, which presently is married to Kevin Brown that live in Mariposa. So it gives me a Baba card. And in it, it said, "Don't worry, be happy." And I believed I had the address to the Muscle Beach store, Baba store, which is now Venice Beach in California. So I look at the card of Mary Baba that said, "Don't worry, be happy." It was a brown card, not like the black and white ones that they make today. And I thought it was a pizza vendor from New York. But he said something to me that was interesting. Very forcefully, he said, Baba said, 2 or 3 times in the course of a few days. And I was kind of impressed by that because this guy was not talking about himself. Something about Baba. I didn't know anything about Mary Baba. So then he says to me, "Tomorrow's Mary Baba's birthday." And he gives me the card again, or flips it over and says, "This is the address." So I called a friend of mine named Stephen Barry. And why did I call him? Because I started hearing this chiming noise that said Mary Baba, Mary Baba, Mary Baba, right across on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm sitting on the bus stand having lunch. And I thought it was the Hare Krishna people or somebody, I don't know what it was. But I heard this chiming. And then again, when I got home, I lived in Carondelet Avenue, and I had a really beautiful house on top of a hill. And I started hearing this chiming going up the hill, and there's nobody around, and I went inside my house. And I hear I'm sitting on my bed, just browsing through a book, and I hear this. So I said, "Oh my God, this is really weird stuff. I might be hearing things." But I know a friend of mine named Stephen Barry. He's a spiritualist of some sort because he follows Yogi Bhajan, the Rosicrucians, the readings of Kirpal Singh, the Yogananda's Kriya Yoga and Hatha Yoga, and God knows what all kinds of yogas were involved with. But he know all about this. So I says to Steve, I called him up, "Steve, tomorrow's Mary Baba's birthday." His reply was, "Can I come with him? Can I come with you?" I said, "Sure." That left me off the hook. He says, "I read some of his books." Okay. "So can I bring my father?" "Yes." And another boy named Herman, another friend of his, I think his name was Herman. So we drove all the way to Muscle Beach, and he started telling me things about Mary Baba, but I didn't pay him any attention because I was Catholic and really born a Catholic person that really loved Lord Jesus and no one else. And then we go into this, what I see is a variety of people and all kinds of photographs of Mary Baba in black and white. They were like probably 18 by 20s or 20 by 22s, that kind of size. All around, they're all in black and white. And I see a man with a little table. His name was Lawrence Ryder, or better known as Hermes. And I saw Dana Fields, first of all, a guy with tape in his mouth, and Phyllis and Del Volking, and Phyllis Frederick, and Baba called him Philadel, and quite a few other people. So I had the acquaintance of Mary Baba. I didn't like the hippie type because the women came to you and they hugged you and said, J Baba. Everybody was J Baba. I never heard any J Babas in my life, and I didn't know what that was or what it signified. So I wanted to get out of this place. I was surrounded by different people that I had never encountered, that all mixing with the young and like that. You know, not too many children in those days because it was the young days in the very early 70s. And I just tolerated it. And they had to have, they were going to have a potluck dinner. And because I went with Steve. And then they proceeded to show a film on Mayor Baba. That was the end of the program. And it was in Andhra Pradesh in the year 1953 in a place called Kabul. So what happened was this. They had a pandal or a stage, a little higher than this, maybe 2 or 3 feet high. And Baba was just there and looking everywhere with his eyes, like he wasn't moving too much, except his eyes were looking everywhere. And then he looks at me like that, and I see him come out of the film and look at me with his beautiful eyes. And the first thought and I was totally engrossed in the beauty, the purity of the waves of love that I felt coming from Mayor Baba's eyes. And I said to myself, I have seen those eyes before. Those are the eyes of God. And I knew in a second that he was God. With that, I didn't even know what Mayor Baba meant, compassionate father or anything like this. So I'm allowed to lunch. But I had a honeymoon. In those days, we call it a honeymoon with God. I had a honeymoon that must have lasted like 7 years. I was really, really totally oblivious of the world, what transpired in the world in a sense, and yet semi-practical, because I fell in love with the Supreme God. And I was just in love with Mayor Baba, and I read some of his books and what he said, and started hanging photographs all over the place and whatnot. Okay, so I moved to Myrtle Beach in the year of 1972, and because I felt that I wanted to be close to where Mayor Baba had come to when I read about his Sahabas that he preordained for 1952, 56, and 58, the months of May and so on and so forth. And some of his companions. And I had seen Meherji Karkaria along with Sarosh Irani in the early 1972 in California. They traveled to the west, Meherji and Sarosh Irani. And I was totally impressed with what they said about Mayor Baba, because this is the first time that any of the Mandali had gone on their own. And that touched me to move to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and almost say up, I'm gonna go to India and find out what is there. So I hadn't been there. Came to India, and I was talking about Baba's grace before a little bit, and the meaning that it means it really takes a lot of effort to get Baba's grace. And Mera told me herself when I was leaving the pandal, or the sabaman, whatever it was called in India, her veranda, the veranda. She gave me a packet of plastic orange waves. And then she walked to the end. That was the last one. There was 4 of us or 3, I'm not sure. And she says, Tony, Baba's Nazar is on you, no doubt. That meant that Baba's grace was upon me. I couldn't understand what that meant. I had read about it, but to experience is a different story. Without the experience, every other word has value, but it's insignificant. You have to have the experience to know what it is. Then Mani said to me one day, because I went to get courses, she lived in Mumbai, and I got her a place near Ahmednagar. But she decided to stay at the trust office, and we have the other place too. And that's when Mani comes in and she says, Tony, Baba has not 2 eyes, but 4 eyes on you. I didn't get the meaning. 20 years later, it dawned on me, and but it's called Meher Mafi now, but it's called Mantra Mafi, on near Dehradun, where Baba spent the first 9 months of the new life there. That's where he headed to first. And he went to Haridwar and Rishikesh and worked with the mast and those sorts of people. Prior to that, in the year of 1973, a fellow named David Nordine came here. And one time I asked him, I had a store which was really profitable, beyond my expectations. I was selling Indian jewelry, taught to me by Barrow and Reynolds in California. And I had a business mind, a very wise businessman, and I knew what to do. So I rented a place in North Myrtle Beach, in Ocean Boulevard, right next to Buddy Puppy and Harold's on the ocean. They were famous, and it was a place where it was only for university people, and all the people from Lores and Longs and all that stuff, Conway, would come there and drink their beers and do whatever, and had a private bar. So one day I called David. I says, David, I got to close my store, and I got all these thousands of dollars worth of jewelry, and I got to put them in the safe. He knew that I had to do that every night, plus all the cash that we took in. That was before the season. And then what transpired was this. We went to the Spanish Galleon, and I went to the bar side, not where all the masses went, but in a private type of a thing, and there were a few people there. And me and David are sitting there. And on behest, and unknown to both of us, we see Mayor Baba walk right through that door that had 2 openings, 2 windows, small openings, maybe a foot long or something. Walks right through. And me and David saw him right then and there. And we just both were stunned that Baba was walking through. He looked so beautiful. He was just gliding along, he's like, his steps were just too good to be true, that someone could walk like that, and the glow in his face, and what permeated was there nothing but divine love. And he passed us by, went around there, and he walked right through the other door. So David was a friend of mine. And then we became very close at that time, because this never happened to me, and it'll probably never happen again. And then David says to me in the year 1974, Tony, I want to go to India. I have the longing to go to India. And by the time when you have this type of a feeling and experience, I said, do you trust God? And he says, yes. I says, you'll be in India in a few weeks. Sure enough, he's on an airplane on his way to India. Well, he was penniless. Baba provides to those whom Baba says, I am the slave of the love of my lovers. So he becomes a slave. I'm just giving you a simile to give you the background. Don't tell today. So throughout my life, I went to India and on a constant basis for a few years. I didn't want to miss Mera ever again, because I thought, if I don't see Mera, she's going to pass away, or I'm going to pass away, because you don't know what the future is going to bring. Then one day, the Mandali got together, and for some reason, which is unknown to me, I met Bao Kachuri when nobody knew even the Bao and all this Mandali, so I became very close to them. My desire was to serve the Mandali, since I had not the opportunity to serve Meher Baba, the master, at all, because he had just passed away. So it was to please those people. Then a few years go by, and the Mandali decided that I should go see India. So they call a man named Shaligram Sharma, and I'll start with the stories there. And they tell Sharma, go see Mr. Griss. He's here for the Amritithi program, and tell him that you're going to take him with you right after. And I went, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to see India. I'm here for Mayor Baba. That's it, to be at his samadhi. But being that the Mandali wanted me to go, I'm sitting with Alaba right at Baba's cabin, watching the people in and out and going to the samadhi for their few minutes, or a minute each, the most. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I like that. So I see this man call up to me and he says, I am Shaligram Sharma and I am to take around India. What was I going to do at the bequest of the Baba's Mandali? So I had to go. So a miracle happened, but I'm not going to get into that because it's not about that. This is the story of one of the persons called Shaligram Sharma. And then I'll proceed with the early Mandalis of Meher Baba, which most of them I had the pleasure to meet, and nobody's even heard of him or don't know anything about him, because this is the West. And in those days, nobody ever went to the tomb, only except some. And they used to put us on a little bus and take us to Maris on Saturday and Sundays, or Thursday, or 3 times a week. The Mandali were available. Ari K. Rani was running the trust. I'll get into a story too. So Shaligram Sharma was a judge in Hamirpur district. And Meherpuri, the name wasn't Meherpuri then, is Manamad. That was the name of the town. Now it's called Meherpuri after Meher Baba. And he went to see Baba in the year 1960, and he came with a Hamirpur group, because different groups came, because there's so many different groups in India from different states, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Uttar Pradesh, and God knows where else. You know, they come from all over the place, Maharashtra and so on and so forth. And so he goes with a Hamirpur group. And Baba calls him when he's, he goes to take Baba's darshan, he bows down to Meher Baba, and Baba gives him his darshan, and he says, what do you have in mind? No, nothing, Baba, nothing. No, you have something, tell me. Oh, no, I got nothing, Baba. He says, ask me for anything and I will grant it for you. No, Baba, I didn't do anything. Tell me what's on your mind. And he says, I want to surrender my life to you. And Baba, acting like a human, he just became very pensive look in his face. This is according to Shaligram Sharma, although this is transpiring then. And I'll give you a little more background after I tell you this on Shaligram Sharma. And so Baba's kind of stunned, and he looks and he tells Sharma, he says, Sharma, do you know what you're asking for? You want to surrender to me? Look, these are the people that have lived here with me for years and years and years and years, and nobody knows what surrender is. They're just trying to obey me, and some are successful and some not that great of successful, but they are my people, the people that I live with. And you're asking me to surrender? They never even heard of such thing. How am I going to surrender? He says, no, ask me for anything else. No, I want surrender. And after this goes on for 3 or 4 times, Baba says, I will have to ask God. Baba goes like this, closes his eyes, and he raises his hands in the form of a V, like victory. And then all of a sudden there's a thunderbolt inside Guru Prasad. It didn't burn anybody or anything, but a thundering sound. Baba opens his eyes and he says, God has heard your request. Your request is granted. So this is the first time, and probably the last time that we hear about this. He is going to be my mentor. Outside of Baba's Mandali, he was the most important person in India, if not more than the Mandali, to the masses of people, because he spent all his life writing a magazine called Meher Pukar that would be circulated in America under a different name, and all kinds of stories on Meher Baba that nobody was even aware of. In publications made in Mahoba with an old printing press from the 1800s, and they did that on a monthly basis. A magazine had to go out, which was sent to the West into another name that I can't think of it now, and that's who was to take me around India. So I couldn't resist. So we went to Andhra Pradesh first by train, and the first time we went to the main place where Charminar is, called Hyderabad. And in Hyderabad, I met Mr. Shastri, and the beginning of they were beginning to construct the Hyderabadi Jubilee Hills Power Center, which is completed and is the biggest one in the whole world of Meher Power Centers. On top of the hill and how it was donated and so on and so forth. So I began, and I make Ramakrishna there, and the lawyer brothers, I'll think of their name in a second, Mr. Shastri, and this caliber of people that were really staunch followers of Meher Baba, and that they lived the life that Meher Baba required, which was obedience, purity, not backbiting, no drinking, none of the stuff that Baba required of all these people. He didn't say that anything about Westerners. I'm talking about Indians, because it's basically the Indian way of life. And he was the one that I traveled with for 30 or 45 years. I'm not sure. I lived in India for 17 straight years. Going to all these Baba centers that I mentioned, I was able to integrate it, and so on and so forth. And when I was in Naranga the first time, and we went up on a different place in the city of Rath, and there was no rickshaws there available that were motor rickshaws. People had to push you like that on the little buggy, and people traveled by elephants and camels and that kind of stuff. And Baba gave darshan in Rath to 200,000 people in 6 hours. Truckloads of bananas were there, but that's another story. That's a Hamirpur story. Talking about Sharmaji. And he was the person that I would travel with throughout all of India extensively. And I became very much loved and cared for by the Indian society, not the Myrtle Beach society. So I'm disclosing these events for the first time in my life, because when I moved here, this community was united, totally cohesive and united. Jim Robles and so many other people that lived here at the time. We didn't have anybody from out of town. Plus, we were a young generation. David Nordine and Edward Locke and myself and another guy named Brandy Boxer, we started the Serenity Club, which was a discussion first about Meher Baba's experiences that we had. And we had quite a few by then. And all of us partaking. And then another fella heard about this, I told him, and then there's 5. And before you knew it, there's 150 every Wednesday at my house. And sometimes where Irwin Luck was doing the film at this other fella that I did a lot of filming with in India. Now, we go to the very beginning of the beginning. And that was started with Sarasip Patel. This was in the year of 1916. And Yipasi Maharaj referred to Merwan Seth, as he was called in those days, as someone to be cared for and looked after for. And Sarasip which was the second person to know that Meher Baba was divine or who was to be, because Sadhguru Basi Maharaj, he says you're going to be the Messiah, the Christ, the Rasul, whatever terms you want to use for different languages or different religions, I should say. And he had a friend of his named Behram, which is the first Mandali of Meher Baba. Behram Faridum Irani. And so he told him, be extremely careful of Merwan, says, because he's destined for divinity. And at the time, Saraswati Patel was a staunch disciple of Vipassi Maharaj. And when Vipassi Maharaj would go through the city of Pune, he would often visit Saraswati Patel. Then Saraswati tells, Sadhguru Vipassi Maharaj tells him, take good care of Merwan, you be with him and you look after him, because Merwan's still trying to attain his God realization. And he has not yet. He's got 2 years to go, or 3 years, till the year 1921. That's when Meher Baba got realized, in the month of December. And what transpired was so sublime, because Saraswati told him, Vipassi told Saraswati, we are going to have a divine conference in Benares, also called Varanasi. And you look after Merwan's death, pack up his clothing, get a place to stay, and I'm going to meet you in such and such a location. You look after him, be sure that he eats, be sure that he's well taken care of, and put his clothes in a nice little suitcase, and you take him and have him look really nice, because there's going to be a divine conference of all the perfect masters that have transpired in the past. And Saraswati replies to Vipassi, well, how come that possible? He says, because Sai Baba passed away last year. And he says, Saraswati, you don't know the ways of the perfect master. He is to preside over the conference. So it was all the angels and all the perfect masters and all the hierarchy of God that transpires in this place. And there's a lot of Brahmins there. A lot of Brahmins are really particular types, and they see this man with a gunny suck. And he tells Saraswati, get a couple of the companions and bring the big pot, and I will make food for all these Brahmins. So he proceeds to do that, but the Brahmins, they're appalled that such person would create such a feast for them, and he's wearing a gunny sack? Who is he? And then Vipassi says, these Brahmins don't want to accept my dakshina. So, feed it to the poor, and then they feed all the poor people, which are many, many, by the hundreds. And then what's left over, Saraswati says, feed Mother Ganges. She's the mother of India. And they do that. And all the Brahmins are appalled. So they within themselves began the gossiping business and the talking business, and then Vipassi decided to have another feast, but they were too late because they didn't know that he was a perfect master. In any case, Meher Baba, as a young man, liked the toady business. Even though he wasn't functioning properly, he worked in his father's toady shop, where he eventually was forfeited to him by one of his partners. Stole that from him. And they left them pretty much out on the street. But Sarasi Patel was in Kaspapeth, nearby Kaspapeth, right in the KLM district, right behind the KLM hospital. It's called Kaspapeth. And in the year of 1921, Baba had them build a place for him where he wandered around for a year. And he went to, of course, the five perfect masters, which I know their whole life in detail to a T, and what transpired with Meher Baba, because I went to these places dozens of times. So I know their whole history, but that's another chapter. And so what transpired was this. Sarasib was the person to be with Meher Baba at all times. He had a habit of taking Meher Baba's name 24/7, as it is the Hindu tradition. It is said in Hinduism, if you remember God, you become one with God. And how do you do that? By constant remembrance of the Master's name, which he did, and that's what transpired. And Sarasib, then in the year 1958, Meher Baba says we're going to open up, at the behest of the Pune people, that we're going to start construction on the Meher Baba Center in Pune, which they did. And by raising money and different sources, Sarasib also had a totally shop where Meher Baba worked in it, and being God in human form in order to be one with the rich and one with the poor. As Baba said, I have slept in palaces and in places that just the ground. To him is one and the same. He was trying to show that to his humanity, that it doesn't regard who you are. Just don't do these things, which are almost impossible for the regular Baba lovers to follow. They don't do it. Simple as that. Most of them. They don't take Baba's name constantly. They're on their telephones. They're watching movies. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're doing the other. And all these things, this is about the grace now. So we go back to it. It took me 20 years to figure that baby out. Well, traveled all around India, and I still couldn't fathom what Meher Baba's grace was. And in Baba's grace, you feel his presence 24/7. No question about it. Irrefutable, and you cannot share this unless you are willing to do it, and if you want to do it, and if it is your job to do it. Most people don't have that kind of grace that Baba has given me. Not that I'm special to Meher Baba by any stretch of imagination. I kept all these things to myself throughout my life. I never told anyone until tonight things that they don't know anything about. Especially Baba's Mandali. The beginning till the very end. And the things that they taught us to mold us into people that would be able to love Meher Baba more and more. It meant that all Baba lovers have a great heart. They're all beautiful and sweet. Baba lives inside of them, and he portrays their character and their traits within Meher Baba. But they have a lot of physical problems and mental problems, in the sense that they don't trust God completely. So their difficulties are not solved, as Meher Baba says. And it could be physical or financial difficulties, or just gossip difficulties, or any difficulties. Baba can solve everything, but you gotta trust him. And as Baba said, trust God completely and I will solve all your difficulties. And then Meher Baba says, your job is to love me, and I will take care of everything else. To love God, you become God. So get ready to do that 24/7, and don't forget him for a second. You could be doing activities or many other things, but at the constant back of your, not in front of your mind, because you can do both at the same time, because I do both at the same time. I'm aware of God's presence, and I could be watching a movie. That's almost impossible. But it requires that you yourself give your own self at the behest of God by trying to please Him, as Mara would tell us, by remembering Him constantly, by doing good words, good deeds, and good actions. Harika Irani, about the breezes of God's love, in spite of the daily fluctuations of your daily life and the goings here and there and all of that, help us to feel the breezes of your love, because Baba's love is everywhere. We must feel it. His compassion. And all of that is recited in Harika Irani's prayer that he dictated in the year 1984. And like that is Erich's prayer, which is really beautiful, because in it you find gratefulness for everything. And not only that, he says that Meher Baba's all around him, and he does all these beautiful things, like talking to people, what he did, and mixing with people and telling about Meher Baba and all of that. But at the back of his mind, he says, it's not me doing it, it's Baba doing through me. So we got to understand that, to leave the ego behind when you're doing something for Meher Baba, and not to feel sort of like aggrandized by anything. And so Sarasip Patel, he lived with Meher Baba, and then Baba said that now he's going to open the Pune Center. And in the year 1960, the construction started for the Pune Center through different funds, and also given by Sarasip Patel. And Baba's construction of the center was completed. Baba inaugurated the center, and we see films of Meher Baba giving his darshan at the center to many of the masses of people, at the Pune Center. And he had a beautiful tree in it that they stole, that gives that beautiful aroma. What's it called? It's like incense.
Sandalwood.
Sandalwood, yeah, it was a sandalwood tree, and one day, boy, they cleaned that up, so he got a little more careful. It's a big tree. And K.K. Ramakrishna eventually took it over. Sarasi lived with Meher Baba, and then he was the main person for the Avatar Meher Baba Center in Pune. And in the year 1973, he left his human form, but in the year of 1969, when they bought Meher Baba for his entombment at the crypt, he was able to go down and feel his beloved and touch him and cry like a baby, which a lot of people cry like babies when they miss his presence. Up to today, there must be quite a few of us that shed tears of love for Meher Baba. Now the communities change because of age and because times are more difficult, inflation and so on and so forth. But before, we all played on the beach, we played baseball, we had hundreds of people going to the Baba functions and all of that. Now, so many have passed away, and glorious souls, that once abided in this place. And there's still quite a few, and our brother Walter just passed away. And there's so many beautiful and pious persons, and they do things in their own way, according to their past, to please Meher Baba the best that they can, like all of us. We do our best, and Baba does the rest. Like take Al Grasso here, he's a fantabulous man. He's in his own way. He is help to this community. I'm using this as an example. Through him dedicating time to helping those who are in need to go to the hospital, procuring their medications, checking up on them, and so on and so forth. So this is like his grandeur for Mary Baba, I should say. And each and every one does that something different. Now, you heard about Shaligram Sharma, Sarasip Patel, and I'm going to Adi K. Irani. Adi K. passed away in the city of Guntur. And there were 3 people present because he wanted to go in his second Andhra tour. And Adi had said that he had done his job perfectly well, and now he was getting ready to go. Adi K. Irani was born to the Kurishru family, the owners of the Avatar Meher Baba Trust of the old days. And Mr. Kushru was a wealthy guy, and his wife was Gaimai, his spiritual mother. And there was a wedding celebration, and Baba was invited to preside over this celebration or to be there in the company of other people, because in India the biggest event of anybody's life is the wedding, because they don't get divorced and all of that. They're there to stay, and most of them do up till today, except it's getting modernized. But Baba inquired about Rustam and Adi K. And Adi was really sick, really sick in his bedroom with a high fever. And Baba told Mai, I'm going to look after him. And Baba stayed with him, and he tended to Adi K. Irani without going to the wedding for 3 solid days. And in those 3 days, what transpired with Adi, it was a transformation from within. He saw what true love was all about, that even the mother, being Meher Baba's spiritual mother, and she's buried in Meherabad, could not give him, because of the attentiveness to the worldly affairs, such as the wedding. And Baba, he wanted to be with Baba at the age of 18. And he joined him. And they traveled to Mandali. And since Adi came from a very wealthy family, he used to wear this really flamboyant type of suits and hats and stuff like that. And one day, Baba, on their way to Mandali, which they walked all the way from Meherabad towards in that whole area, all the way up there, from Ahmednagar, India, and Baba took his hat off and flung it. And it says, this is your past, now you be one of us. So it means all these wealthy attitudes and so on and so forth, Adi had to dispose of. And he did. So he went there, and at the time there was Mr. Dalachanchi, the first secretary of Meher Baba. And Adi became the second secretary upon after his demise of Mr. Dalachanchi in Harban in Uttarakhand. Not Uttarakhand, but in Srinagar. The name of the state, yeah, it's Uttarakhand, I think. Anyhow, Srinagar. And it's a very precious place. And Meher Baba had said that this is the only place in the whole entire physical universe that there's a semblance of balance between the sanskars of humanity, that is balanced. That's what Meher Baba was trying to portray. And I wrote like a lot of stories about how Baba went there 5 times and the dates and what transpired on each and every time and so on and so forth. But now we're talking about Adi. So Adi, he was really a very devoted person to Meher Baba, and he loved the business of, since he was really talkative and chattative and writer too, he would write things that Mayor Baba would say and so on and so forth. He became Baba's secretary, so he could correspond through Baba's, when the mail came to Mayor Baba, and he followed Mayor Baba all the way to Mount Sudanim, and then the New Life, and like that. Like Sarasi Patel also did the same thing. He went with Mayor Baba into the New Life, and he was the second person picked by Mayor Baba to go to the New Life. That was Mr. Patel. And Mr. Patel passed away in that day in 1973 on the 5th of June. He had a habit of taking God's name continuously because it was the habit of all Hindus. It is said in Hinduism that, and India only, that if you take God's name when you breathe your last, you become one with God. No questions about it. And a lot of people are able to do that by making effort to remember Baba 24/7. Like Nanakar had to drill that into my mind for 3 years. Tony, you didn't bring Baba to the Samadhi with you. Tony, you're not with Baba. One day I says, you know, Nana, you're just an old man, and all you have to do is go to the Samadhi and sit there and, you know, greet everybody and give them a big J Baba hug and welcome home and go home with Baba and this and that. You got nothing to do. We have preoccupations. And he says, no, Tony, you got to be present in his presence. And I went to see him every single day to Love School at the library from 6 to 7. Then I come down and I go to Arti, and you could go inside the Samadhi. We didn't have any electricity then, and it was like that, you know, and until, you know, another person put the electricity, I'll get to him eventually. And anyhow, Adi Rani was a tremendous asset in Meher Baba's work. And he did all the correspondence for Meher Baba. He was very attentive, Meher Baba. He would go to Mirasad when Baba stayed in Mirasad. He would go to Mehrabad when Baba came to Mehrabad. And he followed everywhere that Meher Baba went. But 2 years prior to Meher Baba dropping the human form, he became totally indifferent to Adi. In other words, he didn't allow to see him. He sent somebody from Mirasad or ordered someone to bring him his correspondence. He was not to correspond with anyone or anything like that. And those were 2 grueling years for Adi Rani, because he couldn't understand that why was Baba all of a sudden being so loving and so kind with him as one of his companions and lovers and everything else that transpires in his spiritual life of great people such as the Mandali, that we don't understand anything about him because we don't have the experience of being one of them. And like I say, if you don't experience, you don't know. And eventually, Meher Baba drops the human form, and I got many stories about different people what transpired with them when Baba dropped the human form, but we leave that alone. We're talking about Badi. He is the only one of Meher Baba's Mandali that had a semblance of what had transpired. Erich was in shock, and so was everybody else. They didn't know what to do with Baba's body. I know that they brought him in an ambulance, and that was the last trip of the ambulance, and the ambulance died when they took Baba into his little hut. And Adi had to correspond with the whole world through the media, which in those days was the radio, called the radio stations, and announced that Meher Baba had dropped the human form. And then he understood, according to him and what he said, that he had understood why Mayor Baba was not so negligent to him. I love Ike Ryan. I traveled with him. I was with him. I was his advisor on foreign affairs. In other words, the mentality of the Americans was totally different than theirs. And then he loved to play pinball, so I opened up a place called the Pinball Wizard. And I painted it with Mayor Baba's face with a wizard and this and that, and nothing but pinball machines. So IDK would go in there and play pinballs when he came to visit us. And he loved that place. You could see him laugh, and his sense of humor was immaculate. All the Mandali had a great sense of humor. Be humorous, and you're fine. No humor, no life. Simple as that. Don't be a grump. Be happy. Because Baba says, true happiness lies in making other people happy. Unless you love yourself, you cannot love others. You have issues against others because you don't recognize the God within each and every one of these individuals that is by the billions. God is in everyone and will eventually thread the path and will enter the path of love in God's time and in some way and in some fathomable ways and in the shapes and the forms in which mold those. So we who are with Mayor Baba are a fortunate few out of the billions of people that exist for him to hold us and guide us and teach us a different way to follow, a different way to be, and most of all, to love God. And it's in Hinduism, you become one with God. And Sarasri Patel, he got in the morning saying his ablutions, or taking Baba's name, Baba's name, Baba's name, after milking a few cows because he was very fond of milk. He died with Mera Baba's name in his mouth. The same happened to another one of Baba's Mandali, which I'm going to go right into his life in a few minutes. In any case, it was great for all of us that had the opportunity to be with those who were with God, live with God, because they were really happy every time that the Westerners showed up, because nobody wanted to hear a Sarah Chamani would say about his divinity, but his humanity. So we wanted to know the human side of God, not the divine side of God, because that's almost impossible to accomplish. But the human side, we got books that describe it to a T, and more beautiful books come out, and so many incredible books, and more coming out, and remembrances and all that. That is mainly done by Westerners now. In India, there's also a good selection of them done by Indians, the Indian style. And that's sort of what transpires. So Adike Irani passed away in Guntur, and Jack Small brought him back, and they had this plot ready. And according to Stephen Barry, that he smelled like roses as he was being buried. His body didn't deteriorate in 2 or 3 years of traveling. Simple as that. And they would, when they crossed the borders or the police checkpoints and all of that, they would say that he was sleeping, because it made him look like he was sleeping. Other than that, they cover him up with a sheet. So he left to join his beloved Mayor Baba. That is no question about. Whether he comes back again, that's up to Mayor Baba. To be as Erich and Bauji. My story with Bauji is fabulous. My travels with the Mandali started within the year of 1984, because I was a person that brought Baba's nephews, Rustam and Sarat, to America. And that's a fabulous story too. And then after that, Mani and Mera had so much trust in me. They really trusted me in everything, because they wouldn't give their confidence away. You had to be special to them for them to confide in you. Like Mara told me, Tony, I want you to take course, you to go out 3 times. I'm going, oh my God, I get to be with another Mandali, and I get to be with Bauji, and I get to be with the Raos from India, and I get to see all the suspicious people by permission of money at first, and then by urge. The family affairs were from Mani. When I got a letter from Mani here, dated 1984, which I fulfilled the fantasy of Rustam and Sarab that were living in Griss Terrace, right behind Baba's tomb. And they were so innocent, like children. One of these days, I'll tell the whole story of Rustam and Sarab. Because they are something special. This is Mayor Baba's family, until about Mother Perrine and Gulnar and Django and everyone that's concerned with Mayor Baba's family. You know, I live with them too. Absolutely. I stayed in Griss Terrace and all these other places where Rustam and Sarab stayed, you know. And their innocence, their purity was matchless in those days. They were like two little kids. So I arranged a 3 or 4 month tour, the first trip in the year 1984. That was the beginning of what I didn't know was coming. Arranging and rearranging for all the Mandali that came here, and including having to be with Alaba for 4 months. Man, that was unimaginable. And the Mandali knew that I was the one that would do it, or nobody else could do it. Simple as that. And it was true. So from each and every one of the Mandali, I gained some gnosis, or knowledge, I should say, as to how to be in the world. From Padre, I need to be strict and be tough and be the dude that anybody messes with you, you hit him right back. Because that's what he did. It's simple. One time there was, Padre was sitting there, and there's a man with a cow, and he's not with a buffalo, and his buffalo is not moving as quick, and he begins to hit this buffalo with his rope. And Padre saw that, and he goes up to him, and he beats the buffalo. He beats the man up that's beating the buffalo. That's where you get that. To be conscious of his presence, you get it from Nanakir. And like that, all of us that had the opportunity to be with Mayor Baba's Mandali gathered something from them. There's no question about it. I'm going to talk about Vishnu Master because nobody knows anything about Vishnu Master. It happens that in the year 1950s, all the Mandali were living down in Lower Mehrabad and well established there. And one day, Baba decides to go to Arangaon village, and Arangaon is like maybe half a mile or a kilometer away, something like that effect. And when Baba just wanted to do something, all the Mandali didn't flinch an eye, they didn't question, they just did it like this. So on his way up to Arangaon village to visit some of the villagers, Baba looks down at him and he says, Vishnu, go fetch my slate. Baba used that for the alphabet board. Go fetch my slate. So, and then Baba looks and his feet are bare. And put on my sandals, Mayor Baba says. And Vishnu Master says, no, Baba, I can't do that because who am I? I worship your sandals and they cannot be worn by me. And Baba says, again, do this. And he again tried to explain them that Mayor Baba sandals are to be adored and to be worshipped and to be kept forever and so on, and he can't do that. And Baba says, put on my sandals and go fetch my slate. Now he's got no other recourse but to do that. And Baba tells him, you're not here to worship me, you're here to obey me. So obedience is first, and then your worshiping doesn't count. Then what transpires, he was one of the four pillars of Mehrabad, right along with Adike Irani and Padre and the other one. Well, there's three. There's four. I'll think of the other one in a minute. So Vishnu Master was one of the pillars, and his sister of Vishnu Master used to play the sitar for Meher Baba. So she had Meher Baba's sitar that he played with Meher Baba. One day in the 70s, she gives me that sitar, along with so many things that the Mandali gave me. I had 2 suitcases full of Baba things that nobody can even conceive, including myself, that received that all from the Mandali. Baba's fingernails and Baba's Baba jump button and Baba's letters and Baba's handkerchiefs and Baba's sadras and Baba's everything I had, and 2 big ponytails from her Baba, along with many other things that I can. Baba's radio, where he listened to the news and so on and so forth. They're supposed to be in Nashville, and I'm gonna go check it out. And along with 100 videotapes that I took of all my travels to India. And most of them, I would say a great part of my life has been in India. And I did 17 straight years in a row, only with a break going up to Singapore, Malaysia, and a few other places like that, Thailand. But other than that, my job was to be along with Shaligram Sharma, going to all these different places. And in the course of time, I got to meet hundreds and hundreds of people that met Meher Baba. And Baba said many different things about them. If you want to see my real lovers, go to Hamirpur. If you want to feel my love, go see the Indians. And at the same token, he built a Meher Spiritual Center here, and it's a great place that we have the great, great privilege to go in there. Just a handful of us means a couple of hundred, 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many hundreds there is, but among the zillions of people, we are really fortunate to be with Meher Baba. Baba's eyes are upon us. Baba's grace is upon us. And the amount of grace that we get is what we deserve according to our past lives and according to what I learned from Hinduism. When I arrived in a place called Naranga, that's what after Rath, where Baba gave darshan, I met a man called Babu Ram Prasad. And when Baba went there in the year 1952, Baba said to Babu Ram Prasad, which he was the head of the Naranga Baba lovers, he says, I am jealous of your love for me. Baba's jealous, huh? He's a jealous God. And he told Baba Ram Prasad, I am jealous of your love for me. And his son Prahlad now runs the place, the only one that's left. And there may be just a few other ones. The hundreds of people that I wrote so many things like Keshav Nigam and all the Nigams, many Nigams is a popular name there, and the different Baba centers and what transpired on each and every one. Well, I have that together already in books that I've written, 8 books about Meher Baba, and I think the title is going to be Meher Baba, Believe It or Not. And this is basically geared to the new Baba lovers because they portray an interest in Meher Baba as we do, but we had the opportunity of going to India, going to some of the sacred places like Calgrasso, goes out continuously, goes up to Assisi, and it goes his pilgrimages here and this and that and the other, and he loves to play cards and does all this stuff. And David Nordin, well, he's another sort, and so quite a few. Bob is very picky. He really picks us up, man. And when he picks us up, as he said, right up by the river, I tell you the name of the river in a minute, He says he takes the Mandali to the river, and he sees him catching fish, and then and he says, "This is how I catch my lovers." So once you get in that net, you can't get out. So in any case, that was the story of Sarasip Patel, and the story of who else was I talking about now? Oh, Sharma. And is there any particular Mandali that you want me to talk about? I can tell Bauji. Let's talk about Bauji. Oh my God. I met Bao when nobody knew who he was. Maybe if you did, but he wore a pair of little shorts like this, and he had all kinds, not a beard, but like a little bit of a unshaven face every day. And it would come up, you know, narrator would be talking right in Mandali Hall, and you see this guy wearing shorts and a white t-shirt go stand there and stare at the sun for about 10 minutes. And it was Bakachuri. At the time he's writing Mayor Baba, The Life of Mayor Prabhu, busy all day long with that. And the eventuality, I'm going to tell you his story. He was in his last year of law school in this place called, what's the name of that place? I wrote it down in here.
Nagpur, wasn't it? Nagpur?
No,
No?
it was further north of Nagpur in Angota. Not Angota, but just a minute. Because sometimes I've been to so many places I forget the names. But Agunta, he's from Agunta, yeah. Which is about maybe 40, 45 minutes going north of Nagpur. So at that time, he's going to college in Nagpur. He's going through his examination time, and he's got a Muslim friend. And this Muslim friend, Ali Khan, he wants to go to Tajuddin Baba's. So he's a friend of Mr. Kachuri. So he says to Bauji, he says, well, let's go to Tajuddin Baba's place. And when they enter, anything could happen in Tajuddin Baba's. I'm telling you honestly, man. I went there 15, 20, 30 times, and every time, wow, something beautiful happens, you know? And what happened to Bauji was he heard a tremendous sound voice of Tajuddin Baba, and it says, that who you're searching for, you will find soon. I am not the one. And of course, being Hindu, he wasn't going to bow down to his script, you know, which is about 2 feet high, and the people there give you things that, you know, from those days and all that. And there were 5 places associated with the perfect master, Tajuddin Baba. Saint Asylum, Baki Sharif, 2 other places, Tajabad and Tajabad. In any case, so then it is in the newspapers that Mayor Baba is coming to Nagpur to give darshan. So his buddy and Bauji go and stand across the street, a long distance away, and the crowds begin to arrive. And they're passing, and Baba's sitting on a dais, and he's giving banana story, banana, 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 and looking at the person and tapping, and all this darshan business goes. And Bauji goes up, he decides to join the thousands, and he gets some back of the queue, and he makes his way to the front, and when he gets to the name of the front, Baba looks in a different direction, and sticks a banana out with his arm like that. He don't even look at Bao. And Bao just was so oblivious that he ate the peel of the banana. So he's convinced that Meher Baba is something great, even though he was absolutely oblivious of him. So he's got to go find out. Because all of a sudden he feels this urge, this desire to serve Meher Baba. So he goes up to Meher Baba's residence where he's staying in Nagpur, and of course he's got a couple of Mandali, and he says, I request to have an interview with Meher Baba, and he says, no, we cannot let anybody in, and this is confirmed that Meher Baba is in there, but it's other people, and he doesn't want to be disturbed by anyone else, so please go away. We're not going to pass any information to him. So Baoji was very, very clever. So he starts thinking. And he goes by the railway station in Nagpur, and he sees all the pilgrims that had this darshan of Meher Baba taking the garlands, malas that they placed on Baba's body, and then they took back, and Baba blessed them, and like that. And he goes out and he sees this passenger that's got a humongous, none but red roses. And red roses, in the lore of our roses, means union with God. All roses mean something different. And so he talks to the man and he says, well, this was around Baba's neck and all of that. And I'm taking it back with me. I'm Baba just, oh, give it to me, I'll take it back to Meher Baba because that belongs to Meher Baba. He's very clever. So he goes back with a mala, with a garland from Meher Baba. And he says, I come from one of the passengers at the railway station, and he gives me this garland to give to Meher Baba. He's one of the Baba lovers, and this is to be given to Meher Baba. So they inform Baba, and Baba says, let him in. And Bao just totally transfixed by the beauty, the radiance, whatever he was experiencing from Meher Baba was quite something, because he was picked to be a Mandali. And for that, oh my God, what will it take, Only Baba knows that and keeps that to himself. And he meets Baba, and he says, Baba, puts the garland, not on Baba, but side. And says, I want to join you and be with you. And Baba usually looks perplexed, God is colorless, but he got his humanity. So he says, look, all these people have been here for me with years and years and years, and they're just obeying me, or they're trying to obey me. You don't know anything about obedience. And then, Baba, I will do anything that you tell me to do. He says, you what? Well, take your clothes off and go around the city of Nagpur naked. So Babaji pulls up his shirt, and then and then Baba says, oh, obedience. Look. He looks at all his money and he says, this man knows how to obey me. And you've been with me all this time. I was always doing things like that with Bao and Shuri. So Bao just picks on me, all the time, because I knew him from the very, very start. And David Nordin, so probably Bao at the same time in the early days where he wore his shorts and he's doing the biography of Meher Prabhu. Because David Nordin had unique experiences of being with the Mandali too. Oh my God, huh? The sea have him, and he's sitting here. Most especially with Baba's brother Joel and all these people that we paraded around with, and we became very, very close, and he was very much loved by, even Godavari Mai is the only other human being that I know that gave darshan to David Nordin, along with his kid Charlie, and they gave him a drink of what is it, pineapple juice? Coconut juice. He gave him a little jar of coconut, that's prasad. huh? No, Godavari Mai, the supreme person of, me too, I corresponded with her for some time. So Babaji, I started making all the arrangements for all these Mandalis, and other people through Eruj, and that was an extensive type of job for me because sometimes I had to neglect my own work, which I didn't care anything about it because I knew I was guaranteed to go to India no matter what. Because I was not going to miss out myself. I says, I don't want to go out there. When you tell something to Baba that you're going to do, you don't break your promise to Baba or your word to Baba. You break it to everybody else, it's okay. But not to the Lord. You say, I'm going to do this, you do it to a T. And my job was to please the Mandali. And I did a superb job. All the way to God knows who, you know. Like Dr. Barucha from Navsari, and the Raos from Kakinada, and the ones from Hyderabad, and this one, and that one, and the other one. And Mr. Sharmaji came here in some year. You probably met him, you know, some time back. And Bob Underwood had to look after him because I was taking care of somebody else, another Baba Mandali that was coming. And that was kind of like historical events that transpired, and Bauji was on top of the line for me because I got to travel everywhere that he went to. Oh my gosh. I mean, we traveled countryside again and again and again and again and again. Sometimes you spend the days in my house, and we had all these invitations for hundreds of people would show up, Kitty Davy and Jane Haynes and everybody just prepared. No, Kitty, I don't think it was there. Or maybe she was, I don't know. But all these great personalities and fantastic Baba lovers like Gil Alvarado and all the different groups would come down, and we have a party at my house that was incredible because the community was really cohesive. I mean, we had hundreds of Baba people that we were together all the time. But now, because of age and other things, health issues and so on and so forth, it's not as together as it was at one time where everybody played baseball together, two baseball teams, Baba lovers against the Baba lovers, and Jim Robles would take you out of this little thing cruising, and we played volleyball on the beach, and we had the Baba meetings together, and everybody worked as a family. That was what I call a Mayor Baba family. And of course, David sitting here was a great person that he was the pujari, or the priest, you know. He would take Baba Sadra, you know, in my house, and he bowed down to it and started saying Mayor Baba's prayers with full force, huh? Just like Baba wanted the Kadeshmuk, you know, because he couldn't see. Full force, David was equally, or not quite equally, I don't think, but just as loud and beautiful and forceful, and then he created beautiful music for Mayor Baba, you know. He's a wonderful man. No two ifs and buts about it. You got to know him to believe it. In any case, with Bauji, I got to travel all over the place. Bauji really had a tremendous sense of humor that I could see in relevance to myself, because he always accused me in front of all this. I had to be his dancer first, you know, first to perform with him, which was great in a sense because I got to dance to every program that I went to in India, and there were hundreds of them. And one summer Tithi came, man, I'm booked solid for 6 months. Where the heck do I go next? And that's how my life transpired. That's how I was able to gather and meet such beautiful people, you know, that, and this books of, I guess, revelations of Mayor Baba, you know. It's, I'll be writing my 9th book on things that, from all these journeys and agendas that I had and travels throughout India, and meeting Professor Hasra and all these wonderful people that met Mayor Baba, by the dozen upon dozen upon dozen. Maybe about 10, 15 years ago, we had a meeting in Ham Airport to honor those who had met Mayor Baba, and there was about 80 left, including one from another place. That's how many were alive. Today, only Prahlad.
Yeah.
Well, we can wind it up by feeling Mayor Baba's love, by the beauty of his presence, the radiance that he has on each and every one of us, his beautiful eyesight that never leaves us, and his beautiful grace by remembering for 1 minute on my side, you do as you wish. And thank you for allowing me to divulge the secrets of Mayor Baba and his Mandali.
Thank you, Tony. Jay